Today we'll be talking about self-esteem and recovery. This is Dr. Mark Rohde, and thanks for listening. If you're in recovery and newly out of treatment, your self-esteem is likely to have taken a few hits, but things should be starting to look a whole lot brighter. At least we expect so. I'd like you to think about a quotation and then ponder its implications. When the past calls, let it go to voicemail. Believe me, it has nothing new to say. For many in recovery, the past intrudes on the present, so much that it seems to block the possibility of moving into the future. It kind of comes down to, where do you want to live? The past or the present? Those in 12-step recovery often identify the first day of recovery as their birthday, because it's the first day of a new life. Whatever challenges you've had may try to follow you, but you've been developing a powerful set of new skills for building the life you want to lead. How we view ourselves is sometimes thought about as being based on 4 key types of information. I'll review those sources of information, and then we'll encourage you to think about how this information can lead to a vastly different view of who you are. Self-esteem, good or bad, often comes from a comparison between ourselves and others. When the comparison has us on top in terms of abilities, looks, success, social status, or something else, we tend to feel good about ourselves. And when our peers have a higher status, our self-esteem may take a hit. Right now, I'd encourage you to focus on the successes you're having with your sobriety, and compare yourself to your old using peers who are apt to be continuing to struggle with their addictions. Very little that is worthwhile comes without challenges, and you're building a foundation for the future. Self-worth for many of us is also based upon a comparison between our past self and our present self. This one ought to be easy, because the past is apt to have been filled with hurt and disappointment, and your current sobriety, even though its length is fairly short, is apt to be a source of pride. The roles that we fulfill are also a source of information about ourselves and how we're seen in the community. If you served as a member of the choir at church, a Cub Scout leader, or a manager at work, some esteem is apt to have been associated with those roles. Unfortunately, involvement with addictions probably fouled up your ability to handle some of those roles, and the esteem attached to being a using addict is not typically very high. The good news is that many people absolutely have a deep respect for those in recovery, and your ability to fulfill roles at church, scouts, work, or at the local meeting hall can be a source of good feelings. We suggest that you take on service work, become a sobriety buddy, and speak up at meetings in your new role as a person in recovery. This last source of self-esteem is really kind of tricky. Sometimes we come to define ourselves based upon the feedback that we've received from the most significant people in our lives. If the information is positive, like, "Chris, you're so intelligent," we may feel good. But if we've already determined that we have serious doubts about our own worth, we may engage in something we'll call self-talk, and we may think to ourselves, "They're just telling me that because they're trying to make us feel better, even though I know I'm a schmuck." Even though